I have a copy right here, and you've been doing that on Twitter too, expanding people's vocabulary via your Twitter feeds. So as you said, 53 examples, unusual words, every letter of the alphabet. But how did you pick these words? How did you narrow it down to 53? Because there are some very contemporary words like, I think, was it pandemic, quarantine?
That's right.
But for example, there's namaste in there. Why?
Well, I mean, first of all, no particular reason for the final choice of 53 words. They were either words I'd recently used in a tweet like Farrago or cacistocracy, which people's imagination seemed to be captured by, or words the country was suddenly using a lot more often than usual, or hearing a lot more, like pandemic and quarantine, or words in the news like impeachment with Trump, apostrophe when the British closed down the apostrophe society, or just words that I could tell interesting stories about, like curfew and defenestrate. And then I wanted to throw in a couple of words of Indian origin, because we forget there are about 1,000 words in the Oxford English Dictionary, which actually have come into the English language from India. Some of you know from my era of darkness that I used to say that the British took the Hindi word loot into their dictionaries as well as their habits. And in the same way, I have satyagraha from Mahatma Gandhi's usage of it, which many people don't know. He came up with it after conducting a newspaper competition in South Africa for a word that was better than the word that he didn't like that the British press were using about his campaign of civil disobedience there. They called it passive resistance. And he said, we can't be passive when we want to fight for the truth. So find me another word. And the people suggested satyagraha, satya from truth, graha from holding on to something. So holding on to truth. And that was an interesting coinage many aren't aware of. Namaste, because it is treated as a legitimate English language word in the dictionary. But of course, it suddenly became popular with COVID. When world leaders, I mean, most famously Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, insisted on greeting every other world leader he was meeting with a namaste rather than a handshake. There was a video clip that went around of Prince Charles sticking out his hand because he'd forgotten about this new convention. And the person he was visiting doing a namaste, and he laughed and said, I forgot. So I kind of made a thing about that, because suddenly people in England, in the Western world, are probably asking themselves, what is this gesture called that people are now making instead of a handshake? Of course, the West has gone mainly for fist bumps and elbow bumps instead. But those who do namaste may as well know what it's all about.
Well, here we say Corona Namaste. But Mr. Tharoor, it's all fine and well to, try and learn the meanings of these words as we would in a quiz, which also is a word in the book. But how does one learn to use them in casual usage? Do you have a systematic approach to trying to learn new words and to use them? Because I think that's possibly why people may pick up this book.
The honest truth is, for me, no. Because, I grew up in an India where books were my only escape, my only education, my only entertainment, and I read madly, widely, indiscriminately. So what was interesting is that I hardly ever looked up a dictionary. I used to joke that I consulted a dictionary mainly to play book cricket, opening the pages and seeing the page numbers, scores for imaginary cricket teams I was playing with. And in fact, when you look at the same word in 3 different books, in 3 different sentences, 3 different contexts, you pretty rapidly get the sense of what the word means, its nuance, its connotations, whether negative or positive, how it's used. And that's essentially how ideally you acquire a vocabulary. So whenever I address young people, high schoolers and college students, and they say, teach us a new word, which is a favorite question, my answer would always be read. That's the only new word I'm going to teach you, because if you read widely enough, you will come across enough new words and you'll figure out how to use them. But this is a bit of a cheat sheet, because obviously with this book, people can acquire 53 new words that they haven't actually read in a book. Not all the words will be new.